So we're going to discuss, so Friday we talked about variables and expressions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today we're talking about order of operations, properties, and distributed property. If the directions say to evaluate, all that means is to find a value. Basically it means find an answer. If something says equivalent expressions, that means two things look the same. They're the same, but they look a little different. Like Cole and Alexander. You're both boys, but you look a little different, right? So you're the same, but you're different. Right?
That makes no sense.
You're both girls. Like Dylan and
I'm not a girl.
Dylan and Lizzie are both girls. Do they look the same?
No.
Oh, no.
They look a little different. So that's basically evaluate. If the directions say evaluate, you give me an answer.
Okay.
So that's the first part of your homework. One part of your homework is to go through order of operations. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of shortened it. So basically, you evaluate inside the grouping symbols. So that's if you see parentheses or if you see brackets. That's the first step. If you have any exponents, you want to do those.
The first parenthesis.
You see,
What do you do if you see both?
well, you do the stuff, you're going to see it like that. You're going to see the parentheses inside the bracket. So that means you do the stuff on the inside first and work out.
And so if it's like 3 times 3, you just do 9.
Power is the same thing as an exponent. And you always work left to right. You do your multiply and divide first, or multiply or divide, so whichever one's first. And then you do add and subtract, whichever one's first. Alright, so math properties. There's an inverse property. That basically means it's the opposite. So there's an addition property. I don't think I put that over there. But basically that just means if I have -3, the inverse would be adding 3.
It would be 0.
Right.
So it always equals 0.
Yeah.
Can you write that?
What's the inverse of multiplication?
Dividing.
Dividing. And you can also think of it as the reciprocal.
So it's like -3 divided by 3 would be inverse.
Yeah, if you have -3,
How would you answer that?
well,
Just
the
take it
opposite,
out?
the inverse of -3 is 1/3, or -1/3. That's the
I
reciprocal,
thought that'd be positive.
and that'd be 1.
I thought it'd be a positive 1.
It is positive 1.
No, the -1/3. That'd be a positive.
No, because she's
1/3.
That's the opposite reciprocal.
But it's -3.
But that's like the inverse.
And when you do a negative and a negative, it makes it positive.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have an identity property, that means you're just looking at yourself. So like additive identity is you're just adding 0.
So it's like, what's it called again?
Additive identity,
No, like there's another thing for it. Like,
reflexive.
no, like there's no number for like adding, multiplying like 2 numbers together. Like they're the same. Like 3 times 3. 4 times 4, 5 times 5.
Raising it to the power.
No, never mind.
Okay.
3.
Multiplying identity is when you multiply by, how do you get the same number if you multiply?
Oh, times 1.
Times 1. So this would be an additive identity because my answer is 7.
So you just,
If I have 4 plus 0, what's the answer?
4.
0.
4.
How's you multiplying?
Well, if I have 9 times 1, what's the answer?
10.
9.
Itself.
I didn't even ask right. Jeez.
Remember yesterday when I did something like this? If I said 19 less than
The number would go first.
a number,
A number would go first.
how would I write that out?
You multiply -7
Expression.
times 2 and then -7 times.
And 7 times a -8? I mean, -7 times 8?
56.
Okay, -7 times 2?
That would be -56.
Right, what's -7 times 2?
Negative 14.
times
You
4.
wouldn't do that. You would do 4 times negative 6.
Yeah. So we do our parentheses first.
I got that right. I would have got
Then I do
that,
10
but
minus 36,
So you leave the,
I did it again.
and then I multiply.
oh, so you leave that there. I was
Hmm.
confused for a second on that.
Now here's the one now in the second example, do you have any parentheses or
No.
grouping? So we still have to do this guy first, because he has an exponent. So I'm going to get 36. I like to bring everything down. You guys might be able to skip some of these steps, or just use your calculator. Multiplication is first. This next example is going to help you with number 19 and 25 on your homework. So I'm going to replace the letters with what they represent. So A is 12, B is 9, and C is 4. So inside of my parenthesis I have 9. And the only thing that's squared is my C, so that's squared, plus my A, that's in the parentheses. All of that is over 4. So if you want to type all of that in your calculator,
Wait, how did you get 4?
So,
I did not notice.
if you type it all in your calculator at once, you might want to put this in parentheses, like the 4 squared. And you could always do, I mean, you can do as many parentheses as you want on your calculator, or you can just do it by hand.
Got the answer. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
So what's 500 minus 1?
499.
Yeah.
Oh. And then you add.
Yeah.
So like
Okay,
this.
that's. I was thinking of something else.
For just like
Like I got a big whole number. Like what if your number was 120? How would you break that down?
119
Oh wait,
plus
now I
1.
remember it.
How about 110 plus 10?
2.
Oh.
Oh, 1.
All of this stuff was an example for that problem. Alright, so now I want to use the distributive property to rewrite and simplify this guy.
What was that again?
So distributive property means you multiply. So I'm going to take 16 times 3b, so I'm going to rewrite that. And bring down my minus sign. 16 times 0.25. And now I'm going to simplify. So I can multiply 16 times 3 and just bring my b down. And then I can multiply these two
But 40.
and get 4. Now can I simplify 48b minus 4 anymore?
No.
Alright, so I want to write an algebraic expression for this big long guy. So let's take it piece by piece. 4 times the difference of f squared and g increased by the sum of f squared and 2g. So when you see the word and, think of composition. Doesn't that mean like you like two things together?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference of, what am I taking the difference of? Difference means subtraction. I'm taking the difference of those two things. Increase by. What math operation is increase?
Add.
Right, so this guy is going to have a plus sign. What am I increasing by? What does the rest of the sentence say?
F squared and 2g.
It's the sum of f squared and 2g. So these two are going to be added together. These two are going to be minus together. What is 4 being multiplied by?
F?
4 times is next to the difference one, right?
Right.
So 4 is outside of
The parentheses.
the parentheses f squared minus g.
And then
And then
So
you,
would do F,
your plus.
Yeah.
And what are you adding together?
4
F,
F squared
plus
and 2g. 1. So plus, I'm going to distribute 1f squared plus 2g. So I'm just multiplying by 1. Jonah, can I combine any like terms?